Hey everybody, Josh here. Today I've got the new bike to show you. My microphone on my camera that I normally would use isn't working, so I'm using this Zoom H1 for today. So hopefully this works out well. What you're looking at here is a Chinese carbon fiber frame that I picked up from DIY Carbon. Now DIY Carbon works with some manufacturers over in China to produce some high quality carbon fiber frames. This particular model is called the XCE29 and it's modeled after the Santa Cruz Highball. Differences between this frame and an actual Santa Cruz Highball. A couple just pointing out right off the bat, this only has brackets on the top tube, or the bottom tube here on the top side, and the seat post tube for mounting bottles, for example. The Santa Cruz would actually have one on the bottom here. I think the Santa Cruz mold is slightly rounder. It's got a different indentation here on the top of the frame behind the headset. The Santa Cruz has a angled down where this is more of a triangular shape here. The Santa Cruz chainstay goes out and then kind of curves down to the rear axle. So that's another difference here between frames. You know, there's more to it than that. The covers for the routing is different between the two. Santa Cruz Highball has it on both sides, just like this. The one on the Santa Cruz is routed on the side opposite to me, on the drive side, for the seat post dropper. On this one, the way it comes is that funny enough, I'm not sure if this is just due to whoever was putting these together or not, but when I received this, the cover on the drive line side had routing for the rear shifter, as well as it still has this line in here that comes out here, which I suspect would be for a dropper, but I don't see how it's internally routed. I guess more on that to come, right? And then on the other side, it had routing on the left side for the rear brake line, right, which would be internally routed, as I have it here, but it's not internally routed at the moment. More on that. And it had internal routing here, which would go to what came out here for a front derailleur that we're not using. So I just went ahead and pulled that one out. So that's the big differences on the frame. You may also notice here, it's not so visible from that perspective, but on the Santa Cruz Highball, there's more space underneath the bottom bracket. The bottom bracket would actually seem like it sits up a little bit higher position than it is on this frame. Now let's chat about the components, right? So I wanted to build a lightweight carbon fiber kind of XC style bike to go alongside of the Kona Big Hanzo. So I used a mix of parts that I already had available for the bike, as well as picked up some new ones that kind of fit the mold of that type of bike. The fork is a RockShox 35. This came off of my Kona Big Hanzo, had it laying around, figured why not, it would work. If I come across a 100 mil like Sid or a nice Riva RL or something like that, it's probably the direction I'd want to go to try it out in all of its XC geometry glory, right? It was actually these Juicy 3s that came off of my old Trek 6700 from 2010, which is now turned into, I guess you want to call it like a gravels type of bike with drop bars, right? So these Juicy 3s are nice, being that they're hydraulic. I figured if they were fine for my 6700, they'd be fine for this build. To go along on the front end, I picked up a race face turbine. This is a 35 mil stem to go on the 35 mil Kona bar, and a Shimano XTR shifter. The XTR shifter is nice since it has some rubber on the pads for the thumb. You can upshift and downshift in different directions. Very clicky, very tactile, especially compared to, say, the Dior components that are on the Kona Big Hanzo. So I haven't rode this bike yet, but I am very interested to see what it's like on the trail. The wheels came off of a Specialized stump jumper. I can't remember the name exactly right now, but they're 29 inch and 29 inner diameter. They're set up to run tubeless. They've got Shimano hubs front and rear. The brakes are 180 on the front, 160 on the back. The tires that are on them are the Specialized Fast Track 2.3s that fit these quite nicely. Interesting story on this is that I'd also picked up a Cane Creek 40 headset, and unfortunately I didn't have the right tool to put the crown race on the fork steer tube, so I set the nice Cane Creek headset aside and went ahead and used the headset that we have here. This is the one that again came with the bike, and it had the crown race without split so that you could easily put it onto any fork steer tube. So that's what's on here now. It's not the most premium, I know, and I do think that the headset that comes with that's from Cane Creek is actually a little narrower and would fit this frame a bit better. If I do a close up here, you'll see that there is a bit of a gap between the frame and the headset cap, and I'm not totally thrilled about that. So starting with the crank and the bottom bracket. The bottom bracket is a Cane Creek Hellbender 70, and we have race face turbine cranks. These are 170 mil cranks, not your typical 175s. All right, so the 170 mil race face turbine crank with 32 tooth cog are turning the rear wheel, which has a Dior cassette, and gears are shifting with a Shimano XT long rear derailleur. The chain is a Shimano XTR chain, and I believe I had to remove like, five links or so from the 126 length chain. So that's the rear end. This seat and seat post just happened to come off of my daughter's giant STP, and it fit. I'm still on the hunt for that right 27.2 seat post. I do have a WTB Bolt seat that I'm going to be putting on here, but for now this will at least allow me to get the bike down and pedal it around the neighborhood, maybe even hit our local trail. So if you're like me, you probably have a lot of questions about this DIY carbon frame. Is it worth it? What do you think of it? You know, that sort of thing. And I think as I ride this, I'll be able to answer a lot more of those questions for you guys. That's all for now. I'm gonna put this thing down and go for a ride. All right, nice.